Hello everyone, Elite 4Yo here again, taking a look at the latest on the Japanese 151 set. It's been about 10-11 days since that news originally dropped regarding the reprint coming into effect, or will be coming to effect next month. And I wanted to do a little update here, take a look and see how have prices changed, if they've changed. Let's take a look here together. So I'm looking first on price charting. So really useful website. It's just not very useful for this specifically, even though it is tracking some of the price changes here for the booster boxes. But realistically, even if I scroll down here a little bit and you look at the sales data here for them being sold, it's really not a lot of information. I mean, realistically here, it's only showing a few this month even being sold. So these prices, I don't think they're really truly reflecting what the market actually is at right now. However, what I can tell you is that when I originally looked at this, and you see where it says ungraded here, it says 175.52. Well, on March 25th, that number was very close to 200. So that is at least being reflective a little there in the averages of the booster box values dipping down. But again, price charting for this, not really a great tell, I think, on what the prices are actually reflecting. So let's go to Sneaker Dunk. I think this is a better marketplace to look at when we're trying to actually analyze how have the prices shifted here since the announcement 11 days ago. So if we scroll down here a bit, this is the graphic that we are actually looking at, showing us the last month. And the big cratering here from when it was averaging approximately 19,500 yen to a little over 20,000 yen. Well, when it plummets here significantly, dropping off about 25% from its average here, is when the news of the reprint hit. So that was obviously very reactionary, right? People saw that, prices dropped significantly. A 25% decrease there, yeah, that's going to be very significant. That's just a graph here showing over the last month. If I show a different graphic on here, this is showing like the last week. So if we take a look here, prices have kind of gone up and down just a little bit on here. But if I go show you the last 3 months, again, this is just supporting where the prices were sitting. So all the way from early January, mid-January, as I move my cursor along here, you can see the price fluctuations are mostly hovering around that 23,000 yen range. If I go to my yen calculator here and I type in 23,000 just as an estimation, their boxes are going for about 151.74 on Sneaker Dunk. So that was very consistent, and that's not taking into any shipping fees, any other fees that might have been incurred at the same time. It did dip a little bit here in February, but the big dip again, as I've already explained, happened when the reprints were announced, dipping quite significantly. I mean, look at how low it got here. This is a couple of days after the reprint news hit, and it went as low as just a tad over 14,000 yen. So I'll just write the number here as 14,500 yen, and you see where the amount dipped below $100. That's a huge shift in the market price of where it had been averaging over the last 3 months. Again, not counting for shipping fees or any other fees, handling fees, processing fees, whatever. We're just looking at the actual price of the box, specifically on Sneaker Dunk, and you see how much that shifted, that huge decrease there. And I really like this graphic showing the last month because you see where it really dipped. So getting caught up here into what we've seen in the ensuing days from the initial plummet, it did rebound slightly here, going up a little bit, a few thousand yen, recovering some, but then it kind of tailed off again, and it's basically been hovering around this 50,000 yen mark. And right now, today, the 5th of April, it's sitting at about 15,125 yen. which if I put that in our little conversion tracker here, that's still a little touch below $100. So that's what we're looking at. That that $100 range. Is it going to go any further down, or is this as low as it goes? Has it stabilized and it will only stay or climb at this? That we still don't know because the reprints haven't actually hit yet, obviously. That's not until next month. But what we've seen, at least in the short term of the 10 to 11 days since the announcement, is that the prices did not continue to plummet even further. There are people speculating it could drop, even lower than $90 a box. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Could it theoretically happen in a month once the reprints are released? Who knows? But the current outlook is at least that the price is stabilizing a bit, just a touch below $100 from its height of where it had been previously. Now, if I show you current eBay listings just to get another price range here, it kind of makes sense. I think it's a little easier to understand here because you're not looking at it from the Japanese marketplace on Sneaker Dunk, since that is not showing you what the shipping information might be. But if we look at it here just in terms of what the values are on eBay, well, they are low, or lower than they were. I mean, 6 months ago, if you looked at the data, and if I'll pop it back here. I pop it back here on price charting. If we look at like 6 months ago, right, very much here, December, November, maybe a little less than 6 months, the price was hovering around that $200 range. And this is from eBay track data. So if the booster box prices were around, I'm just going to give you a rough estimate over the last 6 months, of around $185, well, look at the lowest ones right now. They're sitting in this 143, 145, 149 range. So yeah, that's another significant drop off. Obviously, these are all free shipping. So that is a $30 to $40+ decrease from 10 to 11 days ago. And the immediate decrease when the reprint was announced was something like $20 to $30, I think. So it's actually continued to dip even more from there, specifically on eBay. But again, the big question is, will this continue? Is this a trend, or will it stabilize? Because on Sneaker Dunk, it's stabilized here over the last week. It's sitting comfortably at about $100, a little less than $100. Whereas on eBay, it's sitting at that $145 average. But again, the difference between the two, I just have to keep mentioning this, is that eBay is accounting for the free shipping. Sneaker Dunk is not. So don't compare the two one-to-one. It doesn't work like that. And the final point I want to bring up on here, if we just look at the biggest chase card, I guess, the Charizard. I mentioned this in a previous video. Is there any correlation between the chase card value and the price of the box? Well, it's kind of interesting here, because if the original price, once the set released, was released to, as it says here, what is that, about 184? Obviously, it goes down, down, down. That's pretty typical, I think, of most sets. But what's most interesting to me is that since March up to now, we are, so last month and a half or so, the price is kind of stabilizing a bit. I mean, it's still trending downward, but it's kind of stabilizing at about $100, which means that the top chase card is about the price of the booster box itself. Pretty interesting, I think, for a very desirable set. What the implications are of that, hard to say. Hard to say if the value of the top chase card will continue a downtrend, which is what it is doing. I mean, from January here, it's lost approximately about $30. Hard to say, right? I mean, if the supply significantly increases, will that mean more circulation of this card being available? Will the price to continue to drop? Well, it's not always that simple for supply and demand, because sometimes the increase in supply increases the demand and the product isn't actually more acquirable, and thus the price fluctuations aren't necessarily what we expect. However, the final point I will make on this, because I did want to just catch up on the 151 reprint after about 10-11 days here is that it's still very much unknown. It's up in the air if the prices will continue to go down. Because right now, if you look again on Sneaker Dunk's graphic here, very useful. After the reprint news, a few days later, it did climb a few thousand yen, pretty significant. But then it leveled off again, dropped back down there, sitting comfortably just a tad under $100 now for the last estimated about week or so. So I'll continue to track this. All this information obviously is available to you as well, but the implications are still unclear. But the closer we get to May, we'll maybe see some movement. I mean, I would imagine up or down, whether the price increases or continues to decrease, hard to say. But the closer we get to the reprint launching and then its availability, we'll certainly see some fluctuation, good or bad, depending on if you're an investor and a collector, what you want to do with the product. But you know, that ultimate question that I posed in the last 2 videos on this subject is, when is it a good time to buy in on this product? You know, if you bought in when it was sitting at that 14,000 to 14,500 range, I mean, that was a really nice little window, brief window, right? Just a few days before it then climbed up to, as it says here, about 17,700 yen. I'll just throw that in the calculator for you, so that you can see what exactly that number is. So it jumped from that number of, you know, 90 to 95 to about $115 just a few days after the news dropped, and now it's stabilized back here, just a touch under $100. So it's still probably a pretty good time to buy, I would imagine. I mean, it's, you know, you're still saving 20 to 25% from where it was over the last 3 to 6 months. But you know, if you're really trying to get the biggest bang for your buck, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna ask yourself, can it or will it continue to go down? The closer we get to reprint release, once the reprint actually releases, and then the ensuing months and on from the reprint having launched. I think it's fascinating if you're really into looking at the market. You know, we'll see what happens. We'll be along for the journey, see this roller coaster ride to the end and beyond, I guess. In any case, that's my update here. Just wanted to do a little digging into what the data is showing us about a week and a half since the news hit. I'm Elite Forio. Hope you learned something, maybe. Take care.